Welcome back to Dr. SuperCoach. In this video, I will be discussing my personal team, how I've progressed during the season so far, and what I'm looking to do this coming week. Coming right up. Hey, what's up? It's JB from Dr. SuperCoach, and if this is your first appointment, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming updates from us. Now, today's episode, as I mentioned, is focused on my own personal team, how I've assessed the season so far and what I'm looking to do this coming week. So as you can see here, I have started the season poorly for a second consecutive year. Unfortunately, I started with 1906 in round 1 for a rank of 68k and followed that up with a 2171 in round 2 to be ranked overall 50k, which is, I think 68 is the highest number I've ever seen on a ranking of one of my rankings personally. I don't think I've been lower ranked than that ever. So definitely a concerning start to the season, but I look at my team and I'm actually pretty happy with how I'm progressing. So let's jump into what we have this week. Actually, before we do that, my trades from last week were Lockie Ash and Hunter Clark, who I don't know why I started. I didn't want to start, to Cole and Goulden. Now, I do kind of regret that a little bit. I was deciding between Dacos and Goulden. Could have gone with either. I thought the tag talk pre-match against Port Adelaide was enough to make me sort of play it safe and go Goulden just to see Dacos for one more week. In hindsight, that didn't quite work out. And now if I had my trades this week, Goulden wouldn't even be in my top 3 priorities, whereas Dacos still would be. So I don't think that's worked out as well for me, but in good news, Goulden is extremely positive. I think he's going to be a really good player this year and quite easily top 6 to 8 on his line. So let's have a look at the team. This week, I backed in Liam Jones again. So he had 76. He did go for a concussion test on 10, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't extremely scared and frustrated that he was potentially going to miss out on another game and have another low score, meaning he would be a must trade out this week. As it stands, I don't think he's a must trade out this week. They have Brisbane coming up. I think his role is completely sustainable for the 75 plus scoring. Considering he did miss 20 minutes of the concussion test and still got a 76. I know a lot of people say St Kilda just bombed the ball in, but Liam Jones really did have to earn his points. He got a lot of his possessions almost exclusively through intercept marking and contested intercept marking. So played a very good game, Liam Jones, completely sustainable in my opinion. Tom Cole came in. I was actually really impressed. He had, I think, 37 or so at half time. And then in the second half, they really dominated the game and he didn't really have many more opportunities. But if he got stats for jumping under a pack and tapping the ball out to a teammate, which I noticed his scoring didn't go up for, whereas I think Bontempelli would, but he would have scored a lot more than that. He's very influential in the game without scoring high Supercoach points, but I think he does have big scores in him. I didn't see him involved in a single switch over the weekend, so if that does increase like it did in round 1, then I think he definitely has high score left in him. Now, the remainder of the guys here in the defense don't really deserve discussion. They're all just solid picks. Doherty, I know a lot of people are opting to jump off of this week. I will not be. I think he should have had a 120 in the first round. I was unlucky to score so low this week as well. I still firmly believe he's going to be top of his line or in the top 4 or 5. Now, as you can see, I backed in Rory Laird for another big score this week. Was never in doubt with that. 147 and the captain this week. Lockie Neal, I think, is a genuine concern, a real issue, Lockie Neal. If we have a look at his break even, it's up to 188. I don't think he's going to fall out of the top 6 to 8 midfielders. I don't think there's any way that happens. But with the concerning start, the slow start, the fact that they don't play at the Gabba a lot more in the next 5 weeks, I think there's serious concern that he drops down to the low 600s and becomes an early upgrade target. So as you'll see when I talk about my trade outs, he is firmly on the trade out list for me. Bontempelli, fine. Green, fine. Goulden, good. Hopper bounced back, which is great. No pun intended. Could miss this week, but that's okay. He plays He plays on the Friday, giving me an opportunity to loop Oscar Baker and potentially someone else. So I think I'm okay with that. I could even bring Philippou onto the field for Hopper via Goulden or via Davey. So I think I've got options there. Hopper still keeps alive a lot of options. So he's not on my trade-out list this week. Ashcroft bounced back. Mackenzie and Ashcroft essentially switched this week, which is fine. Baker was good. Chesser is a drop candidate, but I don't think Waffle has started yet, so there's a chance that he's just dropped down to potentially the sub or out completely. I think he probably gets another game. West Coast did look good, and he started well, but playing on that wing as a kid is so difficult to do. Then the ruck line is where my real concerns start. So Marshall 129, perfect. Madden fine. Darcy 41 with a -2 first half, meaning he still with a good enough second half only had 43 points. Super concerning. I was not completely sold on this pick in the preseason. I wanted Tim English, but the buy of Tim English really threw me off and sort of made me not want to go down that route if I could avoid it. I thought Darcy was a near enough second that I could just punt on him anyway, and that's just backfired. I don't enjoy this pick at all. I'd be very surprised if he's in my team come next round, even if it's against a Nick Natless West Coast Eagles. Now, the forward line has Bruin, which is a concern, but otherwise I'm very, very content with where that's going. So that's the team recap from this week. I think if Darcy had just been any other premium ruckman, uber premium ruckman, then I'll likely have a much higher rise and get up towards the 20-30k mark, whereas a 41 from your uber premium ruckman is just an absolute anchor at this time of the season. So let's talk about who I'm trading. So my trades, I'm definitely boosting this round. There's no doubt about it. There's about 5 trades that I'd like to do and only 3 that I can get in. So the boost is absolutely locked in. The first guy I'm going to be trading out is Lachie Neale. I don't think, like I said off the top, I don't think Lachie Neale is going to suddenly fall out of the top 6 to 8 midfielders. I just think I need cash from somewhere. So my options for cash are Darcy down to Darcy Cameron, who I don't mind. I think he's potential F6 status. Or I could do Bruin down to a rookie, which again isn't too bad, but then I have to field that rookie. So say it's Chandler. I don't really trust his scoring potential or his job security. But I'd have to field him. I'd have no choice. Alternatively, I could do Hopper down. Again, I don't like those options at all. And then I could do Doherty down as well, which would get me 100k, but doesn't quite squeeze in everything that I want to do. And I really am backing Doherty to stay within the 6 to 8 defenders. I think he's still a top 4 or 5 defender personally. So I expect him to bounce back this week. So who am I trading in? So I'm moving Jinby into my midfield and trading Nick Dacos for starters. That gets me 206k to play around with. The first thing I'm going to do with that money, as you could probably predict, is get Darcy out of my team and replace him with Tim English. Now, I know people are going to be saying the buy hasn't changed. The reasons for not having Tim English have not changed. If I look at my team, there are, I think, 7 or 8 players in that round 15 buy. Being it's the last buy round of the year, it's the most acceptable buy to load up on. And when I look at the guys from that buy, there is the potential of someone getting injured. There's the potential of someone not quite being in the top 6 to 8 and requiring a sideways trade. There's a potential of a lot of things happening between now and then. I'm okay taking the risk that I've got the exact amount of guys that is the maximum to have for that buy, and I can't trade any more in until something happens to someone and I can sideways and then sort of give myself a bit more breathing room. It's a long way down the track. With 13 weeks down the track, a lot is going to happen in the game before then. And I trust myself as a coach to be conscious of the fact that I've got as many people from that buy as I can have. And I'm not going to be able to just have all the breathing room in the world and trade those guys in willy-nilly from this point onwards. Having said that, North Melbourne are on that buy, and I am trading in Jack Zeeble as well this week. So This is with the thought process that he could potentially be a keeper in the forward or defensive line. But above all, he's at the very least going to be someone who makes me money. And frustratingly, he was in my team for the entire preseason until the last few days for when Bruin came in with that promised midfield time. So I am a firm believer in the pick already, which helps, as opposed to Bruin and Hunter Clark, players who I'm not firm believers in. It's good to get those guys in your team for the sleep at night factor when you see them continually go well, knowing that you did want them and didn't start them for some reason, not backing yourself in like I didn't. So this really sets me up. So if I'm going to complete these trades, as you can see, this leaves me with 143k in the bank. So let's do that and let's see how this all transpires. So the good news is as well is I can choose to field Wilmot or Constable. I actually don't know which way I'm going to go with that. I'm going to leave the E on Wilmot, I think, and then just see how that goes. Potentially Chesser is out of the team completely by the time that we know, by the time that we have to do something with Constable. So by that point, we will know if Chesser's completely dropped, in which case I can do that loophole. Otherwise, I'll just back Constable in to get enough kick-ins versus Geelong, which who are going to do very well, I imagine. So I'm going to get English back on field. And we're going to see a slightly better projection there. Yep. Lastly, my captains for the week. I'm pretty confident. So I have to use mine, as you can see on the right here, by 4:05 Saturday. So I'm only looking at these first 3 games here. I don't mind a Dacos vice captain shout, and I don't mind either of the Bulldogs, English or Bontempelli. Part of me actually does want to go Dacos against Richmond, who don't tag. He's obviously the shiny new toy, who I've just traded in this week. So I actually am sort of leaning going Dacos, and then captaincy. I mean, look, there's a reason we pay 700k for this guy. Port Adelaide aren't going to tag Rory Laird. If we do, it's hopefully going to be exactly how he tagged Dacos into a 149. But I'm pretty confident Laird is going to be able to do his thing. And I don't think this game is going to be a blowout in either way. So as we can see, the odds are there, firmly favouring Port. But showdowns are a different breed. They don't generally result in blowouts. So I'm pretty confident that one's going to be close enough. And then obviously, as I mentioned, the Baker emergency there. So if he does score poorly enough, then there's a few players I can bring in Philippou onto the field there. So I do like this team composition a lot better. I think having the extra defender in there is a bit more safety. Having Jinbi as backup to go back there is a bit more safety as well. And having Jack Zeeble, who's going to get defensive status soon, and Sheasel is a little bit more safety again. So all in all, you look at this team, and I honestly don't think I'm that far behind the power curve. So I'm ranked 50k, and I look at this side, and I'm probably just missing Setterfield of the player that a lot of people are going to have. And I look at Setterfield's run. So they've got St Kilda this week, which is fine. They've got GWS the week after, which is fine. Then the run gets a lot tougher. So they've got Melbourne the following week. In week 6, they've got Collingwood. Week 7, they've got Geelong. It doesn't stop here. Week 8, they've got Port. And then week 9, they've got Brisbane, I believe. So, yes, they do. So, I just think, as much as I think Setterfield is going to be a good selection, I just think there's enough there to sort of say he's not essential. He's not essential to my plans this week. Darcy, if he scores another sub-ton, loses that much money that you have to upgrade him to get to Darcy Cameron. And for me, Sean Darcy and Tim English aren't going to be this closely priced again for this entire season. I think this is pretty much the closest they're going to be, and I want to take advantage of who I think was going to be R1 from before the season started, and got scared off by a silly buy situation. So I'm going to go back to that and back myself in there. I look at this team, and this is very close to what my team was leading into round 1, and the changes that I made, I feel like I've just spent 5 trades correcting back 2. So my goal in the near future is going to be to take one of the bigger cash cows that sort of explodes early, and trying to get them back to someone like Lachie Neale, who's going to drop early money. So that's it from me. I think that pretty much summarizes my thoughts on my team and a couple of others regarding Satterfield. So that'll do me for today's video. Question of the day is, what trades would you make in my position if you had my same team? Do you see my team bouncing back into the upper echelon of the coaches following another week this week? Am I missing out on anyone? I know I didn't discuss LDU much this podcast either, but I do think there's a potential tag coming for him maybe this week against Hawthorn. I'm not quite sure. I think I've prioritized the guys who I like the most and prioritized the guys who I dislike the most, and they marry up quite well with the 6 moves that I would like to be making, 3 in, 3 out. So please let me know down below if you would change anything at all out of the plans that I've made for myself. And thanks obviously for watching. If you did enjoy this, you'll probably enjoy some of our other content. It's going to hopefully be linked on the screen if Chizo's done the screen linky thing. And you can support us by following our Patreon or going to our merch store by supporting us there. Thanks very much, and we'll catch you at the next Dr. Supercoach appointment.